I'm very pleased to introduce to you our speaker and topic for the webinar today. We have with us Andrew McCusker, who is the head of Opportunities Education Finance Program. And he will be speaking with us today about what it looks like to start and grow a private school in a low-income community around the world, oftentimes in really hard to serve and difficult places. And I hope some of you have had a chance to meet Andrew in person, but if you haven't, we can rectify that. He'll be joining us in Chicago on October 4th for our Light Up the Night benefit event, where you can join him and many of us in the Opportunity team. And we have some exciting topics and speakers, and so we invite you to join us. And we'll be sharing a link about that in our email after the webinar. So back to Andrew. He joined Opportunity in 2017 as our head of Education Finance Program, and he's led us through extraordinary growth. He's been a wonderful leader. Today, Education Finance is working in 20 countries around the world and currently reaching more than 9,000 school leaders and nearly 90,000 parents with access to education financial services. Additionally, there's a significant chunk of the school, 1,600, who are participating and benefiting from our Education Quality Program, which works directly with school leaders and teachers to further improve school sustainability and the overall quality of education they provide to students. And around the world, there's more than 2 million children that are currently benefiting from one or more of education finance services. Prior to joining Opportunity, Andrew served as a corporate finance associate with a network of low-cost schools across Africa and Asia. And he began his career at Goldman Sachs, serving as executive director of global investment research, where he developed investment advice, he managed relationships with investors, and he built an international team. And he's currently based in London. I'll let Andrew take it away in a second. But first, I just want to remind you about the Q&A. If you have any questions, submit them during the webinar, and we'll circle back to them at the end of Andrew's talk. So, all right, turning it over to you, Andrew. Thank you.
Thanks, Lana, and thanks for everyone for joining the call. I can see here that there's a bunch of familiar faces and names. So for those that you have met, it's nice to see you. And for the new people, it's nice to meet you. I'm Andrew. I look forward to seeing many of you in person in October when I'm over next in the US. As many of you guys on the call already know, education is probably the closest thing that we have to a silver bullet in ending the generational cycle for poverty. Every year that we hit in school, not only are they more likely to learn to read, write, and count, but they're also more likely to earn more income when they grow older and to live happier and healthier lives. The benefits for education are felt not just by the kids, but also by the kids' family, the community, and ultimately their country as they become more productive members of society. As Lana mentioned, the theme for today's webinar, A View from the Field. I thought we could do a drill down into one school's journey and interactions with the Education Finance Program over a number of years, which can hopefully provide you with a bit of an indication as to the work that we do with the 9,000 school leaders that we work with right now in this program. I don't think anyone of us on this call would argue about the value of sending a kid to school. It's a huge first step that parents make, and it's a very large step, particularly in the markets that we work in, typically those are very low and middle income. But if we stop there at just giving kids access to a classroom, my view is that we've failed these kids. We also need to focus on what happens inside the classroom when they get there. So what makes a school a good school? I can think of 1,000 reasons why my school was a good school, but probably the three that stand out most to me. The first, of course, is a good school will have knowledgeable and creative teachers. Teachers that not only show up to school every day, but teachers that understand the curriculum and understand and implement pedagogical techniques and practices to effectively deliver a lesson to the kids. Secondly, most of us would also agree that good schools have good classrooms. And by good classrooms, I don't just mean walls, floors, and ceilings. I mean classrooms that are filled with learning materials like textbooks and stationery, designed to help kids have productive lessons. And thirdly, for me personally, I loved having the variety of extracurricular activities at my school. I grew up in Australia where after school sports were a big thing. I particularly loved playing cricket and football. The point here is that for most of us, we know what a good school looks like because we all went to a good school. But what if we didn't get the chance to go to a good school and had to build that school from scratch? It's a massive task. But there's 6 out of 10 school-age kids in the world that are currently not learning. We need more people to give it a try. Imagine you're in a community and many of the kids in your community, your neighbours and your friends, struggled each year to find a school to send their kids. Fortunately for us, there's millions of local educators that are up for this challenge. My team estimates that there's roughly about 1/4 of schools in low and middle income countries that are owned and operated by local entrepreneurs and proprietors. These are women like Mahara Birth, the founder and operator of Busy Bees Foundation School in Rwanda. I first met Miss Birth a couple of months ago in Kigali. Busy Bees Foundation School was the winner of our Education Quality Awards for 2018, which is effectively a program designed to expedite the improvements in conditions for learning at schools in our Education Quality Program. There's no doubt that Miss Birth and the Busy Bees Foundation School are a great success, and I'll definitely get to her part of the story. But the reason that I wanted to bring her up is because she had a dream and she got a loan, she started a school, but she knew that there was more to her journey than just that. To give you a bit of a background on Miss Birth, she started Busy Bees Foundation School in 2013 in her village called Yaheka, which is in the Gazaba district of northern Kigali in Rwanda. The village is home to more than 500 families, most of whom earn a very low income. There are a variety of cultural norms and languages throughout her village, which made the prospect of opening the school a little more challenging than usual. But despite this, and Miss Birth recognising these challenges, she saw the potential. She saw the potential of building her school in that instead of travelling several miles, kids no longer had to travel to neighbouring villages to attend the school. And her school could create jobs in her village, something that was largely needed at the time. So in 2013, Miss Birth got started. She built classrooms and she hired teachers. She painted school walls and planted trees. She bought desks, books and chalkboards. Soon after that, students began to enroll. And soon after that again, she needed to expand. And that's when she took out her first school improvement loan. She used her loan to hire construction workers to build new brick classrooms and gender-separated bathrooms and hand washing stations. Now, these are things that the schools that you and I went to probably had, but not not facilities that are typical in schools in her region. As her school grew, she became keenly aware that the vision for her school, though, was much more than just classrooms and bathrooms and desks. Her vision was to help her students excel, to help them to learn the skills and to get the experience that they need to pursue careers in industries that they wanted to work in industries like healthcare and finance and technology, and to help them to become the leaders in their community and throughout Rwanda more broadly. Her end goal was clear, but the steps to achieve it weren't. And that's where the Education Finance program came in again. Miss Birth and Busy Bees Foundation School were invited to join the Education Quality Program in 2016 when they joined their first school cluster, effectively a group of like-minded schools facing similar challenges within her region. And together with their schools in the cluster, they collaborated, they shared best practices with each other, and they participated in trainings led by their education specialist, a guy called Sandy Roberts that sits on our Education Finance team based in Kigali. Sandy also introduced them to Pathways to Excellence, Opportunity International's assessment tool that helps educators like Miss Birth examine the strengths and weaknesses of their schools. It's kind of like a comprehensive X-ray. We developed Pathways to Excellence with educators like Miss Birth in mind. Like us, she could come up with 1,000 different reasons or ideas of what makes a quality school. But with Pathways to Excellence, Miss Birth had an informed, clear assessment on where her school is today from a quality perspective and a pathway to take it from there to something bigger over time. Miss Birth was then able to use the data from her Pathways to Excellence assessment and shared it with some of her teachers and the parents. And together as a group, they chose 3 areas to focus on in their school development plan, which our education specialist, Sandy Roberts, helped them to draft. The first was health, hygiene, and child protection. Before their first school development plan, the school didn't have access to a safe source of drinking water. Kids often had to travel long distances to collect water, keeping them out of the classroom. And worse still, waterborne illnesses caused absenteeism of both students and staff. The second was environment, physical setting, and culture. The varied languages, dialects, and customs meant that there weren't many opportunities for kids in the school to play games or to participate in activities with other students or schools. The third area was financial and business management. Prior to the implementation of their first school development plan, Busy Bees Foundation School didn't have an accounting system, which often results in payment disputes. It means that the school missed out on collecting fee income at times and missed making payments to suppliers. All of these three areas help contribute to what we in EduFinance call conditions for learning. They're some of the components that help schools to become good schools. When I first met Ms. Birth a couple of months ago, she told me that the best thing about participating in the Education Quality Program was that she now had access to resources and guides, but most importantly, to the ideas from her peers for tackling these three areas for school improvement. Together with her cluster members, some of the solutions that they came up with were adding a fence around her school, employing a security guard, purchasing a van with part of their loan funds to help keep kids safe before school, during school hours, and after school. Adding a water filtration system to provide access to safe drinking water. Her school adopted a child protection policy, effectively a set of procedures designed to protect kids during their time at school. And she established core principles for her school. She reminds the kids at her school of these core principles every morning during school assembly and has even painted them on a prominent wall in her school. She established 4 primary languages within her school, being English, French, Kinyarwanda, and Swahili, designed to promote cohesiveness and collectivity with everyone in the school community. The school now hosts an annual exhibition for students of dancing and artistic-related performances, as well as inter-school competitions and debates. She also began using QuickBooks, which some of you on the call may be familiar with. It's effectively an accounting system which allows her to keep track of her receipts and payments. This will be really important if she looks to access more capital or another loan to continue to grow her school over time. And lastly, and potentially most innovatively, she started a training program for local women in her community to become seamstresses, effectively opening her school grounds after hours and on weekends so that mums in her community could generate more income, further give the kids a better chance of staying in school longer. This all goes to say that Ms. Birth is a change maker. She's who we need solving the education gap in low-income communities. Today, her school has grown to serve more than 340 preschool and primary school kids. The back office changes are ensuring the financial sustainability of her school and will provide her greater access to capital as she looks to grow in the future. Her teachers and staff are now more engaged, and the parents are more satisfied and involved with their kids' education. Most importantly, her students are safer, healthier, and are better learners as a result. And this is all because Ms. Birth saw a need in her community and built a school. Like the 9,000 schools that we work with right now, Ms. Birth is the reason that I do what I do. And she's also the reason that everyone in the education finance team does what we do. Let's go back to thinking about what a good school looks like. I can tell you that what Ms. Birth knew would make her school great differs massively to what a school proprietor in Uganda or India or Colombia would do to make their school great. And no one can really make that determination except for the people who are growing the schools themselves, who are living and breathing it every day, staying up all night thinking about what they would do to change it. Our job in the Education Finance Program is to figure out how to simply empower them, how to provide them with access to loans and capital to grow their schools and improve them over time, and how to offer them the broad brush strokes for how to go about making improvements. We like to think of ourselves as a Google map to the vision for their schools. We give them the pathway, but they're the ones on the ground navigating. And like Google, we in EduFinance are big fans of data, but that's a discussion for another webinar sometime down the track. Some of our funders, the funders of our education program, say that we are the industry leaders in education finance. And I think it's because of this weird mix of providing access to capital in a sustainable way and the quality improvements to support their school proprietors. In our program, we're getting more kids in better schools, and we're doing this fast. Our mandate for the program going forward is to scale our core components, while innovating around the edges to do two things: to improve learning and to increase the efficiency of our program. And while I personally think that 2019 has been a massive year for EduFinance, I think the next 12 months are likely to be some of the most exciting yet for our program. And there's probably three reasons for this. The first one is that more financial institutions than ever are right now interested in working with us to help them to develop school improvement loans and school fee loans for their markets. What's especially exciting for me is that we're seeing this in two of the largest markets for education in the world. Many of you on the call will know that India and Nigeria are home to the largest number of people living in extreme poverty, and also the largest number of kids that are either out of school or in school and not learning. We have a massive opportunity right now to scale our program into these markets in a big way. The second exciting thing that's happening is that the education quality training program is digitizing. Right now, we have about 1,500 schools participating in that program, and we've just been through the process of digitizing the pathways to excellence. As a result, we think that we'll be able to offer that program to any school that's borrowing a school improvement loan by 2025. Currently, that's more than 9,000 schools, and hopefully by 2025, it's a lot more than that. And thirdly, we're learning more and more from our data over time. The history of EduFinance, we've collected a massive amount of data, invested a lot of time doing it. This is data on school finance, on school operations, the demographics of the students and proprietors, and also on the learning outcomes of the kids. The data that we've collected is helping us make changes to our programs to help us to become more efficient and effective. But soon we'll have a lot more insights in areas such as which areas of financing are most important for increasing learning outcomes for kids, and which conditions for learning and changes that we can make are most impactful in terms of helping school finances. We have some really exciting work ahead of us. Now, before I sign off and open the floor for questions, I'd like to share a pretty exciting milestone that we just reached a couple of months ago in the Education Finance program. In July, we impacted our 4 millionth student. That's 4 million kids that we, all of us together, have helped to get a better education. I'm extremely proud of this milestone, and more importantly, this demonstrates the scalability of our model. But to be honest, I'm more excited about the next 4 million and the 4 million after that. The reason I work for the education finance business here is that globally there's more than 600 million kids that each day don't have access to school or go to school and don't learn much when they're there. I think we're in a great position in the education finance program to take this to get more of those kids into better schools, and it's something that I feel personally responsible for. Now, before I stop talking, I want to say a quick thank you to everyone on this call who's been part of the journey to get 4 million kids into better school. We in EduFinance can't do this without you, and to have your confidence and support means a lot to me personally, and also to the entire EduFinance team. So thank you. And with that said, I'll turn it back to Lana to open it up for questions.
Thank you, Andrew, so much for sharing this presentation and the vision of the Education Finance Program, the story of success of the Busy Bee School. It really has moved us. And I personally had a chance earlier this year to visit an opportunity school participating with Education Finance in Uganda. And I met Samuel, who is the school owner proprietor, and heard his personal vision and his story and how he'd been able to achieve so much success by partnering with Opportunity with this amazing program. So now it's time to open up for questions. And before I start the first one, please know you can continue to submit questions. So Andrew, are you ready? Here we go. Andrew, you mentioned wanting to expand to Nigeria. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, sure. Nigeria is home to the largest number of people living in extreme poverty and the largest number of kids out of school or in school and not learning out of any country in Africa.
Wow.
It's for that reason that we are very keen to expand the program. We started working with our first financial institution partner there a couple of years ago, and at the start of this year made a big push to push further into this market. The issue in Nigeria is not just on access, but also on quality, in that it's one of the worst worst performing countries in terms of literacy and student achievement. One of the big drivers there is a high fertility rate, a high number of kids being born. And what that means is that government systems just can't keep up with providing access to quality of education to millions of kids in that country. We've had a lot of success in Nigeria over the last few months in terms of trying to find new financial institutions that want to do this with us. And we're about to start working with our 5th financial institution in that country. I suspect that Nigeria will be the biggest market that we work in EduFinance in a couple of years' time in Africa.
Wonderful, wonderful. You also had shared with us about digitizing education quality. So why are you doing that and why now?
Yeah, good question. The great thing that's happened in the education finance program over the last few years is that the financing business has got a lot of traction. In that about 18 months ago, we were working with about 1,500 schools in the financing side. That's since grown to about 9,000 schools globally. It's a great problem to have, but it means there's a large number of schools that we now have to provide the education quality training program into, that we have the potential to do that in. What we're trying to do by digitising pathways to excellence and the education quality program is to drive down the unit costs and increase the efficiency of that program so that we can deliver it into more of the 9,000 and probably next year more than 9,000 schools that are receiving financing from our financial institution partners. So a good problem to have.
Yep. Well, that's exciting to see we have this plan to go to scale with the education quality aspect of the program, which is so vital. So very, very wonderful update. Okay, we have another one. What types of data are you collecting and how is the data used?
Yeah, great question. There's probably 3 broad buckets of data that we collect. So we collect loan performance data from all of our financial institutions that we work with. This helps us figure out what the growth rates that the financial institution are achieving, the levels of risk, and the financial sustainability of their portfolios and different products. What this allows us to do is effectively look at what works and what doesn't for our financial institutions in different markets and to find ways that we can help them to grow these portfolios in a financially sustainable way over time. At the school level, we collect data on the operating performance of the schools, so operating metrics like number of teachers, classrooms, number of kids per class, and things on the financial performance of the schools and the learning outcomes of the kids that are achieved. Ultimately, all of this data is used for effectively helping us refine our program and to make us more effective in terms of the way that we deliver it to get more kids into better schools.
Great, excellent, wonderful. Okay, we have another one. What are the average costs to educate a child?
Good question. The best proxy that we have is on school fees for the kids, or that's charged to kids in the schools that we work with in the education quality program. In our 3 biggest markets in Africa, the average monthly school fees are around $8 per kid per month. Now this differs massively by market and even by regions within each market. In some cases, $8 can be a massive stretch for families. Think of a country like Uganda that has 6 kids in family on average, so perhaps 5 that are school age. Coming up with $8 a month for some families can be a stretch. For others, it's less of an issue.
But I think it speaks to, from the context that we're in, what a great investment this is in the potential of children and the future around the world. So this is something that really moves me to think about how it really multiplies this generation of kids and the next generation of kids for really a very nominal amount in our lives. So that's really amazing, Andrew. The next.
Sorry, if I can, to put that in context of the cost of our program and delivery. On average, the work that we do with financial institutions ends up costing about $3 per kid in order to access finance. That's a once-off piece of work at the start to create a permanent seat in education. On the quality side, it's a few dollars per year per school to help kids effectively go to a better school. So it's a much smaller total share of wallet of education spend for kids in that community.
Right. So that education quality piece is the superpower multiplier in all this. So that's really encouraging to hear. Okay, we got another one. What are your current funding needs? And of course, as a philanthropy team, we love asking that question. So bring it on, Andrew.
Yeah, it's a great question again. We effectively, on our work with financial institutions, have more demand from financial institutions in markets with a lot of kids out of school and in school and not learning than we can actually deliver right now. The two constraints of our business on the financing side are human capacity and effectively budget to go and do the work with financial institutions. With more budget, we can get more kids into better schools by working with more financial institutions in more high-need markets.
How does being a faith-based organization impact your approach?
Yeah, good question. In EduFinance, our goal is to get more kids into better schools. We'll work with any kid who's out of school or in school and not learning to provide them with access to a quality education. And we believe that every kid should have that opportunity, regardless of where they come from.
Yeah. So we open the table to invite everybody to the table in the school. Beautiful answer. Okay. How do you vet the teachers and educators, be sure no one is taking advantage of our services?
Yeah, great question. On the financing side, the work that we do is with the financial institutions themselves. There's no cash transfer from us to the financial institutions or to the schools. The goal of the work with the financial institutions is to help them to lend more money to more schools, but to do that in a financially sustainable way. What we're trying to do in EduFinance is provide the financial institutions with the tools to assess schools, assess schools in terms of their ability to repay loans, and to effectively grow that portfolio as quickly as they can. So ultimately, it's a financial institution that is the gatekeeper for access to capital to the schools. On the education quality side, where we have a larger or more direct interactions with the schools, we develop relationships specifically with the schools, but all of the work that we do is on capacity building. So the funding for the education quality program is effectively for our education specialist staff, guys like Sanday Roberts, who I mentioned earlier in the session, that looks after Busy Bees Foundation School and Miss Bertha's cluster. In terms of schools, we track their participation through the program, so we can monitor how many cluster meetings they're attending to, whether they're showing up to school leadership professional development, whether they're completing self-assessments, what they're scoring themselves, and whether they're completing school development plans. And over time, we'll be able to track their progress. One of the interesting decisions that we're going to have to make in the education finance program is how much support do we continue to provide to all of the schools, or do we effectively batch and support the ones that are looking to show all the most promising gains versus those that are not.
So, I mean, effectively, it's just really solid design monitoring evaluation, and, you know, we supplement it with the relational model as well. Very good. How do you find those educators to begin with? How do you find them?
Yeah, the education specialist staff, it was really interesting. I think in the early days of the education quality program, when we didn't really have a brand name or ability to hire, it was a lot more challenging. Now that the program's grown and we've developed a bit of a reputation in markets, it's really incredible the quality of applications that we get. Not just for the education specialist staff in country, but across the whole education finance business, in that I'm massively blown away every time we go to market looking for staff in terms of the quality of people that we get and the people that are really mission aligned to what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. Well, you know, organic word of mouth really says it all in terms of speaking to the effectiveness of the program. So that's very encouraging. All right. We have a question about how we determine which financial institutions become our partners, especially why they might not be selected. So who is selected, then why wouldn't we select someone?
Yeah, great question. Maybe what I'll do is spend just a minute or two talking through the process of when we decide to enter a new country to when we start working with our first financial institution partners there. Ultimately, we think that there's about 53 countries in the world that our program can operate in effectively at scale. That is, get more kids into better school. What we're doing is choosing countries, working our way down that list. We currently work in 20 of those. When we decide to enter a new market, for example, Ethiopia, the process is to go and do effectively a scoping study of who is out there in the microfinance industry. We'll then go and pitch the idea of education financing, so lending money to schools and lending money to parents, to any financial institution that will listen in that market. What we're doing at that time is really trying to understand the willingness and the ability for these financial institutions to deliver these products at scale and to our target market demographic. Mm-hmm. There's typically two reasons why we won't work with a financial institution that wants to do this. The first one might be that they may be a large financial institution that's only interested in servicing schools upmarket, so at a higher price point of school fees than we're willing to work with. Ultimately, in the education finance program and more broadly at Opportunity International, we're looking to serve basic pyramid, and that's where we'll look to stay. Yeah. The second reason that we won't is that sometimes we find small financial institutions that will service that demographic of the market that can't operate these products at scale. So what we're looking for is the internal capability and also the balance sheet to be able to do it.
Makes good sense.
That's mission alignment and ability.
Mission alignment, absolutely. Could you tell us about your recent conference in Uganda?
Happily, yeah. It was really cool. It was the first time that we in EduFinance had organised a conference of this scale before. So the idea was to get all of our financial institution partners from different parts of the world all in the room together to share learnings, experience, and share best practice. We were blown away by the attendance in that we had around 70-something people from the financial institutions, represented more than 33 financial institutions from, I think, 17 countries or more around the world, all engaged in education lending for 2 days in Uganda. It's something that I personally think was probably some of our most impactful work over the last couple of months, and something that I would love to repeat in the future, and that it's massive benefits for our financial institution partners.
Wonderful. That is very encouraging to see that level of commitment to the program and to see the reach of the program and, that sharing of best practices. Does Opportunity use any e-learning solutions, especially involving a cell phone?
Yeah, great question. Building schools is an expensive game to play, right? The challenge that we've got in a bunch of communities that we operate in is connectivity and reliable connectivity and access to mobile phones, particularly for kids, is pretty low. What we're trying to do, or the ways that we're using technology right now, is effectively in our education quality program. So the training program that we deliver to the leaders of the schools, I mentioned that we've digitized that now. What that means is that a school leader is able to access the Pathways to Excellence guide, go through the self-assessment process, and to draft a school development plan using their mobile phone, tablet, or laptop. We implement or launched that program with 53 schools in Ghana about a month ago. What we're hoping to see is similar levels of engagement than our full service program, and what that will mean is that we're able to roll that out across many more schools in many more countries.
Very, very exciting update on that front. Well, we're coming to a close. Thank you, each one of you, for joining us, and we hope that you were inspired and you'll continue to be like us, optimistic about our mission to end extreme poverty in our lifetime. And also want to put another plug in. We hope that you could join us in Chicago on October 4th for the Light Up the Night benefit event. And you'll see on the screen your personal invitation being delivered via this webinar. And also just to let you know, we will be sending out a recording of this call. So thanks again, be blessed, and have a wonderful day.